Kevin Durant is an interesting person. He can drop 40 on your favorite player with ease and then hop on Twitter to argue with a 12-year-old. As most people know, he's very sensitive. More sensitive than a professional athlete should be, but he is going down as one of the best players to ever play the game. But his decisions on social media and the teams he's been on can affect on how people view him, possibly going underrated when his career is all said and done, or maybe just underappreciated. When KD made his decision to go to the Warriors, it put a blur on his OKC days. To this very day, people forgot how good KD was before the Warriors. The decision he made was weak, but people seem to ignore the fact that KD put up some of the best numbers in finals history in 2017. He averaged 35, 8, and 5 off almost 50-50, 100 splits, but he was on the Warriors, so people just look over it. And he went on a historic playoff run until he got injured in 2019, averaging 35 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists off great efficiency. In the Clippers series, the last 2 games, he dropped 45 and 50 after saying this.
I'm not gonna get in the way of the game because, I want to have a little back and forth with Patrick Beverly. I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
And this is what the opponents had to say.
What more could you have done to slow Kevin down?
What you think? I mean, he's Kevin Durant.
I promise we tried.
Proving that KD is unstoppable. But the freedom that players have now do produce some super teams. Although LeBron didn't start super teams in general, he did start player-produced super teams. Some NBA fans and older players think that players of the league all of a sudden just became less loyal. No, it is just because players now have the opportunity to go wherever they want, even if they are still under contract. We saw how AD got his way of going to the Lakers even though he was still under contract. And the most recent one is with James Harden getting his way to Brooklyn. Players today have way more power now than they did 15 to 30 years ago. If players in the 80s and 90s had the same power that players do today, there would have been a lot more player-produced super teams. Back then, organizations made super teams, like with the Showtime Lakers, the Boston Celtics, and the 76ers. Even failed attempts with Houston Rockets and the 04 Lakers. And if players had power back then, they would be doing the same thing. It just gets me irritated when people say, back in my day, people wanted to compete. They didn't want to join up with their rivals and win. We did it the old-fashioned way. No, you guys didn't have the opportunity to do so. Human behavior is the same with all generations. It just seems different with more opportunities in different situations. The decision of LeBron taking his talents to South Beach had a heavy influence on KD's decision. Even though KD was delusional to think that people wouldn't criticize him for going to the Golden State Warriors because they lost in the finals. My guy, they lost in the finals. The team that you blew a 3-1 lead to. The team that set the most records in the season. A team that has a back-to-back MVP. But they lost in the finals. So this decision is basically the same as LeBron's. Yeah, I don't know what was going on in KD's head, but technically it is LeBron's fault that KD went to the Warriors. And this decision will have a negative impact on how people view KD's career. Let's look into his OKC days, going all the way back to 2007 where KD gets picked 2nd overall by the Seattle Supersonics. The Portland Trailblazers had regretted their decision by picking up Greg Oden, but at the time, it looked like a safe choice. Pairing a big man with their star guard at the time and being Brandon Roy, but we all know how that turned out. But in the 07-08 season, KD averages 24 and 4 on little to below average splits. He wins Rookie of the Year and winning it by a landslide with the 2nd place being Al Horford. The team didn't really go anywhere, having a 20 and 62 record, but KD solidified his spot as the best player on his team. Going into next season, the team is now called the Oklahoma City Thunder. In the 2008 draft, Durant gets his future crime partner in Russell Westbrook. This didn't help the team right away, with them having a 23 and 59 record. But in the 2009 draft, OKC gets James Harden. With this pickup and KD and Westbrook getting better, the team improved to 27 wins by having a 50 and 32 record. Durant becomes a first-time All-Star and breaks out into a bona fide superstar and wins his first scoring title of his career. He finished 2nd in MVP voting behind LeBron with averages of 30 points and 7.5 rebounds. They finished with the 8th seed and faced Kobe and the Lakers in the first round. In KD's first playoff series, he took the future champs to 6 games. It was almost to 7 games. OKC lost in Game 6 by 1 point. In the last seconds of the game, they forced Kobe to miss a mid-range, and then Pau Gasol got the offensive board and put back to win the game. They were just one shot away from Game 7. Many people don't know how close they were to winning that series. KD averaged 25, 8, and 2 with getting the respect from the Black Mamba. The team keeps this momentum going into the 2010-11 season. KD wins the scoring title for the second year in a row with averages of 28 points and 7 rebounds. At this point, KD wasn't that good of a playmaker and he wasn't as efficient, but he was eager to get better and eventually improved in those things as he got older. This is the season where Westbrook becomes a first-time All-Star. The dynamic duo led the team to a 55-27 record and finished 4th in the Western Conference. A little fun fact, with KD being the best player on his team, he was also the 3rd highest player. Nick Collison got paid more than twice the amount that KD did. But moving into the playoffs, KD led the team to the Western Conference Finals with beating Denver in 5 games in the first round. Then the Grizzlies in 7, but ultimately lost to the future champs going against Dirk and the Mavs. Dirk was on a mission that season. He was not playing in the series. He dropped 48 in Game 1 and 40 in Game 4. There was nothing OKC could do. Both KD and Westbrook shot horrible from the field. KD shot 42% from the field and 23% from 3, while Westbrook shot 36% from the field and 20% from 3. They were doing nothing against the Mavs that series, losing in 5 games. But in the 2011-12 season, this is when the Thunder started to tee up. In the lockout season, OKC went 47-19. Their win percentage was better than ever before, with being 71.2%. In this season, James Harden breaks out to be the 3rd star on the team, winning 6th Man of the Year with averaging 17 points to close to 50-40-90 shooting splits. Westbrook improves even more in being a 2-time All-Star and becoming an NBA superstar, with averaging 24, 5, and 5. And even Serge Ibaka improved with being one of the best, if not the best, shot blockers in the league, leading the league with 3.7 blocks per game. KD once again won the scoring title by winning it 3 times in a row, and finished 2nd MVP voting once again to LeBron James. This year is when KD led the team on a historic playoff run, sweeping the Dallas Mavericks, who were the previous champs, gentlemen sweeping what was left of Kobe and the Lakers, and beating the Spurs in 6 games. KD beat Dirk, Kobe, and Duncan in one playoff run, not going to a single Game 7. Legendary. I know that those legends weren't at their absolute peak, but it's still an amazing accomplishment. KD and the Thunder were left to face off the Big 3 in Miami, losing in 5. But every game except Game 5 was close. People just look back at it and think it wasn't a competitive series. But they did lose to the LeBron-led Heat. LeBron was on a complete mission that season after the upset of not winning last year against the Mavs. OKC just keeps getting in unlucky situations. Going into the next season, the Thunder trade away James Harden. It was a blessing in disguise for Harden, but a decision that the Thunder will later regret. KD and Westbrook led the team to a 60-win season and the 1st seed in the West. KD once again is 2nd in the MVP race, behind LeBron again. At this point, KD is viewed as the 2nd best player in the world. Going into the postseason, they faced the Houston Rockets in the 1st round. And in Game 2, Westbrook gets injured off a questionable dirty move by Patrick Beverley. This caused him to miss the rest of the postseason. KD manages to lead the team to win the series against the Rockets, putting up amazing numbers with 33, 8, and 6. But in the next round, he couldn't do it without his all-star teammate. He lost to the Memphis Grizzlies in 5 games. In the 2013-14 season, KD finally passed up the ghost he has been chasing in being LeBron James. KD has come in 2nd place behind LeBron 3 times at this point, but in 2014, he finally gets this MVP that he's been working hard for. This MVP season is very underrated. KD averaged 32 points, 7.4 rebounds, and his passing skills improved, going with 5.5 assists. With almost 50-40-90 splits, KD wins the scoring title once again, making him a 4-time scoring champion at only age 25. He led the team to a 59-win season, finishing at the 2nd seed. They made it all the way to the Western Conference, but unfortunately ran into the Spurs, who were on their revenge tour after what happened last year. They lost to them in 6 games. Then going into the next season, there's another young up-and-coming team that's trying to make some noise, the Golden State Warriors. The year that the trio of Steph, Klay, and Draymond break out. However, the Thunder underwent problems with KD getting a foot injury, which caused him to miss the playoffs. As you know, this is when the Warriors make it to the finals and beat LeBron and the injured Cavs. This is what the Thunder was trying to do for the past half-decade. OKC was very unlucky. During their path, they had the Dallas Mavericks, a super team in Miami, and an all-time great San Antonio Spurs team. As soon as the Warriors come up, those teams are long gone, or they're just not as good. And soon as this happens, KD gets injured. Talk about bad luck. But they'll have next season, right? Nope. This so happens to be the year that Stephen Curry has the best offensive season a player has ever played. The whole Warriors team got even better after winning the championship, setting the record for most wins in the regular season. But people still had doubts of the Warriors. People talked about how they went through a postseason of injured teams, and that they didn't have to go against a healthy Thunder team. Although this is true, you have to play who is in front of you. It's not their fault that they went against injured teams. But many people believe that the Thunder, Spurs, and the Cavs were better than the Warriors. On February 27th, OKC and Golden State had the game of the year, and it ultimately ended off of a season-defining shot by Steph Curry. But everybody was waiting until the playoffs. OKC and the Golden State Warriors face off in the Western Conference Finals, and OKC takes a 3-1 lead. Then in Game 5, they lose by 9 with KD putting up a 40-point performance. Not great efficiency, but respectable. But we're not worried, right? We're up 3-2 against the Warriors. We're good. Oh, and then Game 6, Clay happened.
Quick shot would be Thompson and Curry. And here is Thompson. Here's Thompson. Got the step. Met by Durant, and he pulls it back. Thompson wide open for three. At three-point line. Here is Thompson, has been on fire. And goes down. Mark. All right, here is Thompson again. Bogut keeping it alive for the new possession. Thompson turning and shooting.
And knock it down.
A long three for Thompson. Fires for three. Yes. Now 10 for 31.
Nah, we shouldn't be worried. We're good. Just get one win. Then Curry drops 36 with 7 3-pointers. Devastating. A terrible ending to the Thunder dynasty. For a recap of KD's OKC career, he gets 4 scoring titles, an MVP, led the team to the finals once, and 3 other times to the Western Conference Finals. But sadly, all people will remember is that he choked a 3-1 lead, and then went to the Warriors because he couldn't win. When KD retires, these OKC years will be forgotten. And if KD went with the Nets, people will only look at his career with meaningless titles with super teams. They will try to bring down his greatness, his accomplishments, and only see the negative. Kevin Durant's career is and will forever be underappreciated. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe and comment down below. I'm out.